Hi, welcome to the seventh part of the Environment and Economics lecture of the Marxian Economics course. This lecture series is prepared for the Middlesex Technical University, Northern Cyprus campus. And here, actually, I would like to talk about the one possible path a capitalist economic system might reduce its impact on environment, which is called intensity. Intensity is basically the resources extracted or waste, any kind of waste, including CO2, which is actually disposed to nature. So, how far we can trust to intensity to solve environmental problem? Basically, first we should note that intensity, we expect from intensity a lot. We don't expect from intensity to create one miracle technology to decrease the waste immediately. We expect from the intensity a continuous decrease in the intensity, because our GDP level continues to need to increase. We need to have a continuous growth rate. And the second thing we should note about the intensity is actually so it should decrease faster than GDP, and that fact is actually that's one thing which was actually studied by an economist, and you can see it on the readings, Jevons, which is called Jevons paradox. So the main point is we are assuming that intensity and the GDP doesn't have any connection. But Jevons basically in his theoretical study, which also he has supported with empirical findings, when we have an intensity that is decreasing the resource use, or the resource use, basically, that's especially true for resource, because in case of resource you have price mechanism. In case of waste you don't have price mechanism unless it is enforced. But when you have, let's say, in case of resource use, new invention which is decreasing the intensity of the use, actually you might have an increase in the amount of resource that is used, not decrease. That's because that decrease in intensity will be over. Suddenly the price of that resource will fall, and especially if that resource is a commonly used resource, which is important. I mean, people will rush by increase their production level so much due to this decrease in price level. In the end, basically, you might have a very high speed up in the accumulation level, which is basically increase in production, which will result in increase in production level, so that that speed up will balance the reduction created by the intensity. So Jevons paradox and the idea actually shows that the intensity might be not a factor which might actually solve the problem by itself, at least. And we should not be one thing. Intensity might also be reduced by shifting the production from the commodities which need a production with resource use or waste disposal, to the products that are not result in waste disposal or the resource use. However, we should note that characteristics of the capitalism, which basically capitalist system usually has basically evolves in a way so that you produce more of the same good, not less, not a different type of good composition of commodities. That's one problem. That characteristic of capitalism might change in the times of crisis. Basically, the IT revolution might be, in that sense, one revolution. And as I said, it's an important revolution. It might change a lot, which might change the rules of the existing capitalist system, which might change also our economic system, by the way. That's also a possibility. But we should note that mostly those type of changes happen at the type of crisis. The crises are the periods where the drastic transformations in the intensity might occur. But when do you have a crisis? You have a crisis when GDP falls to very low values. So that's the very points where basically those are the very points basically which the countries try to prevent or avoid. And one point is when you reach to that point, which is actually according to Marx, remember that's the point where the economy corrects itself. When we are talking about the resource use, these might be the very points where resource uses are shifted to the resources that are less used. So that might be the point actually resource impact might be corrected if state doesn't intervene the other way around. If at the very time of crisis the state doesn't, for example, subsidize the oil use or the companies that are extracting the resources that are used commonly in the economic system. What about the waste side impact? The main point is the waste side impact, especially at the time of the crisis. That's the point when you remember, waste side impact can only be solved in the capitalist system according to the main, let's say, main tool in capitalist system. To correct the waste side impact, that's artificial correction of prices. That waste side impact can only that correction can work in best way, create most drastic changes at the time of again crisis. But the point here, the point is, at the crisis is exactly the period when the state will be at it feel the pressure to remove those waste side impacts because the companies are suffering, the profits are low. So how can you keep the burden of the carbon tax on the companies still? But note that carbon tax will show its greatest impact at that very moment. So those are the problems with the capitalist system. The articles actually go further in their predictions and basic analysis, but basically I try to keep this lecture kind of a little bit more compact, for better or for worse, but you can see more empirical data and research on the article part. And I also try to bring a lot of information from different schools so that in order to present them efficiently, I try to keep the presentation a little bit shorter. Anyway, so as I said, this is the endpoint. We have intensity, which might solve the waste side and resource side impact in capitalism. But again, capitalist system itself makes makes the job of this intensity solutions a lot more difficult. Can we still trust the decrease in intensity in capitalist system? Or even we might ask a more fundamental question, this which is asked in very little number of economists. Can we have a capitalism where the P times A itself might decrease, or even at least stay stable? Those are questions I won't answer in this course. I have presented the ideas, I presented the difficulties, but this is where I'm at. Well, we have a summary, which is basically healthy capitalism increases the production, it needs to increase production level, which means we are left with solving, solve our problems of environment by decreasing I. In case of resource side problem, we can trust to the price mechanism, although the reaction might be slow and imperfect. In case of waste side problem, we cannot rely on price mechanism unless we artificially correct it. Again, this artificial correction should be done truly. The institution should basically not be banned by lobbyists to decrease the carbon tax below the actual correction, the amount necessary for the correction. It can be very token amount, very small amount, I mean, just to show you have a carbon tax. Within the capitalist system, production level cannot be held constant as according to Marxian economics. Of course, some economists in America think it is possible, but Marxian economists don't think it's possible. It's possible to reduce intensity, but within capitalism, drastic reductions in IF at the time of repressions. But so capitalism can react to the environmental problems, maybe with the aid of artificial prices, if they are set correctly, with help of I intensity, basically. However, that reaction, even if the state is adamant, might not be fast enough, and the problem needs to be solved urgently. The broader evaluation of the problem, and in the articles you see a lot of ideas on that, is left to you. I just want to introduce you, because in most courses, as far as I know, you don't have that kind of an introduction. I just wanted to introduce you, just get you the first step into the way environmental and economics can be studied together in this course. And I want to do it even beyond Marxian, the way Marxian school is studying that. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Last lecture will be our last lecture. The next lecture will be our last lecture, which will be on end of the capitalism and alternative economic systems. That's the only time when we will see possibility of the social system and discuss how that system might look like. And I hope to see you in that last lecture. And again, I hope you enjoyed this lecture. And as always, stay healthy.